curious about Air Jordan. Where did that come from?
Thanks. Yeah, that's just a teaser. Hi, I'm Kerry Rose. I'm with the Deer Creek Southside Firewise community. And we, a while back, saw a presentation by Mark during one of these meetings right now about Aries. And so I got excited about that, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm just gonna give you a quick overview. I'll talk about myself briefly, just for some context, what our community's like, why we wanted the radios, what our current status is, a very similar format to what you just saw in here. What worked and what didn't, and some suggestions for other groups that might be interested. So, who am I? My background is in audio and music and technology, so I like things with knobs and dials and lights, and cables, and all that kind of stuff. So I just had and I used to have walkie-talkies as a kid, so I just like that kind of stuff. I work my current day job, working real estate, and part of my job too is just understanding just the lay of the land, what's going on in the community. I've acted before in previous communities I've lived in. We had out in West Marin, we had our first responders evening liaisons, and we actually had the fire department radios. We were meant to basically be boots on the ground for people because it's a very similar situation. And in fact, the fire department there was volunteer, and so we all had to kind of just step up. And so I just kind of got into my father-in-law's an Emergency firefighter for 20 years, and so part of it is just being interested in caring about this stuff. Currently a committee member in Deer Creek Southside Firewise, and then I'm now self-appointed Air Jordan manager, and I'll tell you what Air Jordan is in a second, besides basketball shooting. So here's our Firewise community, Deer Creek Southside Firewise. So this upper line is basically Deer Creek. Pine Street Bridge is roughly there, Tribulation Trail. And it extends all the way down to Providence Mine and back down to Deer Creek that way. Basically Zion Street is the other border. But we're gonna go to the next slide, just to zoom in a little bit. So there again, this top border of our Firewise community is the actual creek. But mostly what we're gonna talk about is what's going on in Jordan Creek. And again, there was an existing FRS radio group.
Tell them what FRS is.
Oh, sorry, family radio system. It's the walkie-talkies you can get at Costco or on Amazon. And they're plenty fun, and they're helpful at hikes and concerts and things like that, where you have kind of clear line of sight. And when you get with Mark in the Aries training, he'll talk about what the technical limitations are of those radios. So we had an existing sort of DIY radio group, and I'll talk about it in a second. So if we can just go to the next slide. Okay, great. So Air Jordan, there's the sneaker. But it's because we're all basically everyone, with some exception, lived on Jordan Street, which is this street that heads up to the water treatment plant. So basically this is a group that self-started a while back using these, let's just say, very available, but it's also somewhat limited walkie-talkies that you can get. But they had started this group even before I moved into the neighborhood. We had about these little, this was the best thing I could come up with. There was about 16 households that were in the group, and we had contact information very similar to what Lorraine just described, ways of getting a hold of each other, whether it's knocking on a door or calling, texting, and or using the radios. But just to be clear, that's fine. So Air Jordan lives within the Deer Creek, right, Firewise community, and it's in some ways it's separate. And I think there was a thing within our Firewise community. This is a separate initiative that, as you well know, the neighbors that give a darn are the neighbors that give a darn. So mostly it's all the same people, but it was a separate initiative, just to be clear, for organization purposes. So why do we want them? Well, people understood the need already, right? That was clear. And we had a little bit of a network in place. People already talking to each other, and I think based upon also what we learned with Aries, that's really important. Actually, you have relationships with these people. You can already talk to them. They know who you are. You actually care about each other, or at least care about what's happening in the neighborhood. But one of the meetings that I saw in Mark's presentation, and I think they gave some case studies out in the town of Washington and some stuff, and it became really clear that we were also going to be limited. And that wasn't just from case studies, but also personal experience. That's the next bullet is, stuff broke and it didn't work. And if you couldn't even text or call, or you couldn't get ready Nevada County, I mean, you couldn't do much. And so unless you wanted to, vote with your feet and walk out and knock on someone's door. It was really hard to talk to other people, know what was going on. And we learned also through the area's presentation what the shortcomings of the family radio systems were. And then so I think there was just a general desire for better tools and getting access to first responders, to OES, and a wider network of people. And we've done some tests, and we can actually talk to people kind of far away, which is kind of cool. And also one thing that motivated this and got me to sort of volunteer myself was that the person who founded Air Jordan actually moved away out of the neighborhood, so there was just a void. And the guy who got handed to whatever that job was not very happy about it. And so I think I just felt like, well, not me, who's going to do it? So I just raised my hand and took it over. So the current program status, and I call us a pod because again, like the Aries group is distinct from the Firewise community. It operates within it, but it's a separate group of people that have decided that they wanted to do this. They wanted to put in the effort. They want to be available. Part of it's that you're going to show up when stuff gets ugly. So we did the training. We had 2 actual activations, right? And I'm sure you know what those most likely were, but certainly the snow weather events and some fire stuff. We also tested what I call passing the torch through succession, which I'm really big into, is that no one's in charge. It's very flat, right? And so, because if I'm out of town or I don't feel so hot or whatever, everything to Lorraine's point too, it's like we all got to be able to step up when needed. So how to pass the torch, who's going to be the net controller, kind of the hub of the wheel, who's going to be the person to contact other folks. So we've had some good tests, but there's more to be done. So these are my action items. This was good for me. So thank you, Casey, because it reminded me of some to-dos. I have stuff to do. We have stuff to do with the community, which is kind of formalize the roster, just to keep communications going. We need to do some more tests, some more drills. We need to integrate some of these households that decided not to upgrade. That's my little upgrade arrow. That's just your typical walkie-talkie you can get pretty much anywhere. This is the GMRS. That's the General Mobile Radio System, right? So it's just a more powerful radio. Operates on similar frequencies, but it works better and it goes farther. So we need to do some tests to integrate the people with the cheaper radios into our group. I want to do that, and then defining some protocols for supplemental actions. Great, we talked about it, but now what? Right? Somebody needs help with their car, or someone needs to get an ambulance, or someone just needs information. So we got to practice what you do after you use the radio and get the information. It's now time to take action. So we need to practice that a little bit, and a couple other things: doing welfare checks on people who may not have any kind of radio, and also this is a thing we learned too. Particularly with the snow situation, was, we're boots on the ground. We can see that tree limb hanging on the power line. We know what's going to happen in the next 3 days if we're getting another double weather. So to be proactive and go out and walk the neighborhood, we did that a couple of times. Didn't help much calling PPD, but we tried. And then other scenarios, I want to do some tests too, where we try, reaching ODS, or again, just some technical drills. So that's the current program. So I call us the Air Jordan Aries Boosted Radio Group now. So hope you like that, Mark. I just did a little upgrade on your logo. So now we have, of the 16 or so people, we now have people with both FRS and GMRS radios, and we actually we shanghaied someone from the Greater Champion Mine group. So we've got someone across the creek and up the hill, and we can get a hold of him too, and he can talk to us. So I like the idea of other Aries groups starting to work together, sharing best practices, sharing things that don't work that well. I think that's a really great idea. Maybe it's a Facebook group or something, a way we can all talk to each other, even if we want to do it on the radio. What's next? So what worked great was Aries offered us a great service, great information. That worked. Getting purchase recommendations. Just here's the radios you should buy, and I highly recommend just get the more expensive one. It's a little more full featured, and it was great for training purposes because then no one's left out. No one's like, well, my radio doesn't do that, or whatever. So that's just my personal opinion about that. The trainings and the tests we did it's actually kind of fun. And then they actually came in handy. It gave us confidence, and that was definitely proven during our latest snow event. We got a chance to use them and we got a chance to pass the torch. So this is the picture, I think, that sums up what this could be like for you if you care to take it on, but it's well worth it. It's important to me. So it was from like herding cats, and part of it too is to respect that Aries is a volunteer program, right? They're not getting paid to do this, so we need to respect their process and to interface with that when you got all the neighbors have their own idea about what it is or what it should be, and it's just like, hey guys, this is the program. Are you on or off the bus? Really? So, and just making it clear. Being a liaison, in my case, was helping to steer what the Aries pitch was, or the Aries offering was to people who needed to understand what's the benefit, right? Because that's the first question. Answer it. Why should I spend the time? Well, here's why. It could save your life, or it could save a friend's life, or you could just help the community out. So I think that's important. And related to that is understand the process also. I think that's really important to convey to your neighbors. What's going to happen? How's this going to work? And yeah, there's some steps we got to follow, but we'll get to a good outcome. So I think we could have done a little better about, well, now what? We did the training, got the radios, we tested them, we practiced them, but now what? So I like to work on that a little bit and some guidance. And the last bullet, I really say, I'm thinking of ways to make a training actually fun, practice fun. We could do radio treasure hunts, or we could do whatever ways to actually just get the radios in people's hands to use them so they're comfortable and confident when you actually. So that's, do I have one more slide? I can't remember.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's related to what I just said, is just understand what's out there. And I think start at the website, even just educate yourself about what's the program before you even reach out to Mark. I think he does a great job. Identify someone, some lucky soul as a single point of contact to work with Mark, just to keep communications clear. I personally use a little technology just to herd the cats, so to speak. I got people to fill out a little form online just to indicate interest, so I can then get back to Mark and say, here's the people who we hope will show up. You can use Google Forms or a Jot form. And then the last one really is to be patient, because community organizing just takes a little bit of patience, and to be flexible, because we had to accommodate, it was like herded cats, they had lots of people to integrate. So that, I think, is that it? One more slide. There you go. Thanks very much. And if anybody wants to talk to me about it more, I'm happy to be available. So
Thank you, Carrie.
yeah, Carrie.